The point of this new video series was to use humor as a vehicle through which we review Big Ten football games played on the weekend prior to recording.
Welcome, everybody, to our Bowl Preview Part 2. This is TeamRivalry.com Bowl Preview Part 2. Mac, how's it going over there?
It's going all right. My predictions have been, I guess I only made one prediction that's been played so far, and it was really close. So I'm very happy.
Really close. Good. I forgot what mine was now. I know it was I think I had Wisconsin winning, but I forgot what I said. Anyway, tonight's show is totally off the cuff. We are not doing all of our regular stuff. We don't have the PowerPoint. We don't have the trivia question. We're going to try to get through 5 games, which I'm hoping you can see on your screen there. Do you see it, Mac?
5. Yep.
5. Okay, the 5 games: the Fiesta Bowl, the Peach Bowl, the ReliaQuest Bowl, the Citrus Bowl, and the Rose Bowl. We're going to try to get through all of those in our Zoom time. If we cannot, we're going to throw up the scores and let you analyze the games yourself. I know it sounds scary, but I believe in you. I think you can do it. You ready, Mac?
I think so. I'm kind of scared now.
All right. We're going in date order. Here we go. The Fiesta Bowl, Michigan versus TCU. This turns out to be the first time these two teams have played each other, which seems kind of wild given the status of these two teams. You would think they would have played each other at least a bowl game by now. But since it's a first game alert, all we really have to go off of right now is that Michigan is 13-0, Texas is 12-1, Texas Christian, is 12-1. Michigan is ranked. The rankings are missing. I lost the rankings. The rankings, Michigan is number 2, Texas Christian is number 3. I should have known that anyway, given that they're in the CFP. Mac, do your thing. Give us some analysis. What's going to happen?
All right. Let me just rescue this segment with some stats and analysis. Yeah, so definitely going to be an interesting game. I'm a little leery of this line here. So the line right now is Michigan by 7.5. Okay, and so what that says to me is that the odds makers are looking at Michigan more for their defense than they are for their offense. All right, so Michigan right now averages 40 points a game. But a lot of that is because they also control the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. So Michigan is very rarely without the ball, and their opponents very rarely have the ball because of that. This is all very high level stuff. But what that says to me is that there's probably going to be this game is probably going to be a matter of Michigan imposing its will on defense, wearing TCU down, playing the exact type of game that Michigan wants to play. Where I see TCU potentially having some success, they're a very pass-happy team. So they average, I take that back, they're very good on offense in both facets. So they do have 200 yards rushing per game, which is very good, but they average 273 yards per game through the air. Now, Michigan is only allowing 191 yards through the air, but that's definitely something that TCU could take advantage of in this game and keep it kind of close. For me personally, I'm seeing this game starting out. I think TCU will probably have a close lead, if not a tie, at the half. And then I think Michigan kind of takes over from there. But the really interesting question that I want to see answered here is whether or not this line actually comes to fruition. Is Michigan literally more than a touchdown better than TCU, or is this going to be a game that kind of comes down to a last-second field goal? Which I don't know. We'll have to see. My prediction is that it won't, but that's why I asked the question.
Yeah, what I think is fascinating too, you're looking at those stats. I mean, they're virtually the same on average points per game. It's the points allowed per game, so that's defense. Yes. Michigan has the better defense, and because they have the 13 points allowed, TCU has the 25 points allowed, they get a 2-1 2-1 ranking over TCU for that. The FPI has Michigan at 66.8 and TCU at 33.2, which I think is incredible to have that 2-1 advantage for defense only.
And I'm thinking that probably, I think you're mostly right. I think that it's also because the Big 12 is not as strong a conference as the Big 10 is this year.
Okay. So Michigan had a stronger schedule even with that poor. off season or not off season, non-conference
Non-conference.
games?
Yeah. I mean, I think that they had the stronger conference season. TCU, I wonder if TCU has what their non-conference was all about. But I'm looking at TCU as the type of team that, or the Big 12 as a whole, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is a whole lot of offense and very little defense. So 25 points allowed might actually be pretty good for a Big 12 team. I'm not entirely
Mm-hmm.
certain. So, because we don't pay a whole lot of attention to Big 12 teams, we'll get there, I guess. Uh, but what I'd be interested to know is um, the closest thing in the Big Ten conference to a team like TCU, I think, is actually Ohio State. Although I wonder if TCU's offense is a little bit better, or if maybe just Max Duggan, wow, TCU's quarterback, if he might just be a better quarterback right now.
Mhm.
If that's the case, then TCU's offense might be a little one dimensional. I don't think that it is. I think that they might just have a better offense than Ohio State. But that said, they're also a very similar team to Ohio State. And Michigan is a team that was built with the literal explicit purpose of slowing down those high flying offenses with serious toughness and just hard hitting football, especially in the trenches. So it's going to be a really interesting mashup of styles here to see if that translates across conferences.
Yeah, it looks like TCU had 5 wins over ranked teams, but then yeah, that big loss, not a big loss, but they lost to Kansas State in the championship game,
Mm-hmm.
their conference championship game. Yeah, so that'll be interesting.
So you also look at their schedule though, and okay, so they won 55-24 over Oklahoma, and Oklahoma at the time was number 18. Oklahoma
Mhm.
finished the season 6-6, so they're not ranked.
Okay, yeah,
Oklahoma State finished the season 7-6, I believe. They're not ranked. Kansas State is a good win still. Texas finished the season, I believe, if not unranked, then really close, number 20.
okay,
And they finished 8-4. So that's not a great win either.
right,
Um, that being said, Michigan's schedule might be a tad better, but it's not incredible. I'm looking more at the fact that Michigan destroyed Ohio State at Ohio State as the determining factor in why I think
yeah,
Michigan is going to win this game.
yeah, that was definitely huge.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the top secret team rivalry score predictor is throwing out some wild numbers today. This is might be a little high, but let's see what happens. We have Michigan at TCU, or Michigan versus TCU. Michigan 39, TCU 27.
I have a very similar score prediction actually. I think
Oh,
I
all
think
right.
it's also gonna be a high. I don't know what the over under is just yet for this game. I want to check that real quick. The over under is 58.5. I would
Yeah.
bet the over, and this is why. I think Michigan's gonna win. Oh my goodness. Whoa. Oh my goodness. Well, that was a whole thing. I think Michigan wins 38-31.
38-31. All right.
Yep.
Not bad. All right. Really close then.
Yeah.
That game, the Fiesta Bowl, will be New Year's Eve at 4:00. For those of you who would like to watch, our next game, the Peach Bowl, which is played in Georgia, and Georgia is in that game. Which I don't know. It feels like a little bit of a conflict of interest, but maybe not. I don't know how often they get to play at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, but I suppose it's a lot like having the Big Ten championship in Indiana. We've got Georgia, the Georgia Bulldogs versus the Ohio State Buckeyes. Georgia being ranked number 1, Ohio State being ranked number 4. Georgia having a perfect season, 13-0. Ohio State being 11-1. We all know who that one was. We just talked about that. Mac, give us your expert analysis and opinion. What do you got?
I am I'm gonna start here with a it's not, what is it called, a lock stat, a something like that, but it's not
All right.
quite that, but I think it could turn out to be okay.
All
And
right.
this is what it is. um Georgia allows 12.8 points per game. And the over under for this game is 62, which means that the odds makers think that these teams are going to combine for 62 total points. So I'm looking at Georgia's defense. They're not as good as they were last year, but they're still dominant. Okay. They allow 77 rush yards. They also allow 215 pass yards. Okay. So who does that benefit exactly? Well, rush yards, that means Ohio State's going to become fairly one dimensional on offense because they're not going to be able to run the ball very well. CJ Stroud is not a running quarterback. So what does this do? Well, it puts the game on Stroud's arm. How well can he throw the ball? And we saw the exact situation. This question was literally already answered in Columbus on November 30th, whatever what day it was, to November 24th. Those are both probably wrong, but whatever. But this exact scenario has already played out, and I'll give Georgia a little bit of love here. They're Michigan style football, but with better players right now, or at least, quote unquote, more talented players. And so I'm looking at this like, okay, Stroud has to win the game using his arm. He's already shown that his arm isn't exactly the best option for Ohio State to win football games, even though his arm is actually really good. That's the thing. But as soon as they become a one-dimensional offense, if they have 1-2 drives where they can't do anything and Georgia is able to just impose their will in the trenches like Michigan was, then this could end up being another long day for Ohio State. On the flip side, Ohio State also only allows 19.3 points per game, and Georgia's only scoring 39. And I say only because Georgia put up, I think, a lot more than that last year. I think. Again, not entirely sure. Don't pay a ton of attention to SEC football because who cares? So where that could benefit Ohio State is they've got some really good pass rushers. Ohio State has a really decent pass rush that can definitely disrupt Stetson Bennett. And if they get a lot of pressure on Stetson Bennett, then maybe, just maybe, Ohio State is able to get 1, 2, 3 stops. And if they can get that and keep Georgia off the field, and maybe even keep this actually a fairly low scoring game, but at least maintain control of the football, then they have a really good chance of winning. The problem is that I think Ohio State is built as a moderately fragile, and I hate to say that, but this is, and I'm sorry, Ohio State, I'm really not trying to dig. Like, I think you guys are a great team. But I think Ohio State is built as a, they're really fast, really, they strike hard kind of a thing, but they strike quick, but as soon as you stop them, they're done. And not necessarily for the rest of the game. I mean, like on a drive-by-drive basis. If they get to third down and obviously if they don't convert, then they have to punt. But like Ohio State likes to throw the ball, way more than they like to run it. And if Georgia's already stopping the run and Ohio State is forced to throw the ball that much, if Ohio State misses a couple of throws, and all of a sudden you're looking at, second and third downs that are constantly behind schedule. So you're looking at like 3rd and 8s, 3rd and 10s. They get into those kinds of situations. I think Georgia is pretty much home free to take the game, to take control of the game at that point. If Ohio State is able to run the ball, that's really going to help. But they're also just probably actually going to need to slow the game down a little bit, maybe play even Georgia's style of football just a little bit better.
And is CJ Stroud playing for sure? I thought there was some concern that he might skip this game for the NFL. Is that off the table for him now?
I think is off the table. I'm double checking, but I could not believe that would be the case. I mean, that would be insane.
He's a senior this year, isn't he?
He is.
He's done. Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, what kind of a precedent would it set if a player sits out a playoff game? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. I was just wanted to say it's happened before, but now I'm not sure it has. I know they skip since they've started the playoffs. They've been skipping bowl games, but that's only if they're not in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So yeah, you may be right. But
Yeah, I don't see anything.
yeah, this is going to be a game of a couple of really, I want to say bullies, but I mean that in the sense of they beat each other up. I think both of these teams are known for just bruising their opponents. So
Well,
that's going to be a tough one
actually, I'll kind of
physically.
disagree with that.
All right.
I think Ohio State isn't necessarily the bully, or maybe they are just in terms of how fast they are and how much they score against lesser opponents. But like the reason they lost to Michigan was because Michigan just out physicaled them. Out.
Yeah, well, yeah, when they run into a team that's stronger for sure, but those other teams, every other team they played this season, I mean, they just at some point they just started pushing them around and doing whatever they wanted. That's all
Yeah.
I'm referring to as far as the physicality of the team. They rarely struggled for the win until they got to Michigan,
Yeah. Well,
or until Michigan got to them.
I mean, actually, I would kind of look at the Maryland game as evidence to the contrary, just because Maryland, I mean, Ohio State was playing pretty well in terms of scoring and scoring quickly and stuff like that. Their usual brand of football, but Maryland has an offense that is intended to be built the exact same way, and they were
Yeah,
scoring just as much to a point.
to a point.
To a point, they
To
were
a point.
scoring just as much until it mattered, and then they didn't.
That's right. Remembering, was it in the Maryland game where Ohio State got their, uh, was it 2 touchdowns or just 1 touchdown in garbage time?
They got one touchdown in garbage time because I think the Maryland quarterback Talia Tagovailoa fumbled the ball or threw an
Yeah.
interception somehow or another, and an Ohio State lineman actually scored.
All right. So take away that last touchdown, and it's 36-30. So yeah, that's a close one.
Mm-hmm.
All right. For the Peach Bowl. Whoops. There we go. For the Peach Bowl, we have Ohio State, Georgia. I've got we got a high scoring one here for them from the top secret team rivalry score predictor, even higher than the Michigan TCU game. We have Georgia 48, Ohio State 35. So sorry, wow. Buckeyes. The top secret score predictor algorithm thinks you're going down on this one.
Yeesh. That sucks. So I've got Georgia 38-24. And the reason for that is because I think Georgia's probably going to dominate in the trenches and slow Ohio State down a little bit more. So it's not going to be as high scoring, but we'll see.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
All right, we're doing okay so far. Let's go into game 3. This is the big one, the ReliaQuest Bowl. Is ReliaQuest insurance? Is that?
I feel like it is.
No idea what it sounds like. An insurance company.
It does.
Something like that. All right, we've got at the 2023 ReliaQuest Bowl. Oh, the date is wrong on the site. It's like, well, I mean, the date's right, but it's actually the 2022 ReliaQuest Bowl for the 2022 season, although it's going to happen in 2023. So we'll talk to our programmer and see what's going on there.
I feel like that's right, though, because whenever they refer to the Rose Bowl, they always refer to it as the year, like after the
year it's played.
Happened. Yeah, the year it's played.
All right, well then we're good.
Yeah, I think the programmer's fine.
I will refrain from speaking to the programmer.
Okay.
We have number 22, Mississippi State versus Illinois, no longer ranked. This is their third time they played together. So not a whole lot going on there. They're going to be playing at the Raymond James Stadium in Florida. I don't know who Raymond James is. I should look that up one of these days.
It's an investment company.
What?
I think it's an investment company.
Raymond James? That's not like somebody's... Oh, yeah, you're right. That's probably somebody bought the name to the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Mississippi State and Illinois both ended up 8-4 on the season, although Mississippi State had one less conference game, so they were 4-4, and Illinois was 5-4. Not too much separating these teams. Mac, give us your analysis. What do you got?
Well, first off, got to throw this out there. A couple of Big Ten fans here, and we were both legitimately devastated by Mike Leach's untimely passing. Don't know a lot about him. I just remember seeing all of the absolutely epic conversations he had with reporters, sideline interviews and stuff like that. The guy clearly had a good, solid head on his shoulders and a
Yeah.
great sense of humor. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that
I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, so that really sucks, and
Yeah.
all that.
I had not heard of him until this season. So I started perusing YouTube, looking at videos of his interviews and all that, and the retrospectives on him. Seemed like he was a really fun guy and a great coach.
Yeah,
I'm certain he will be missed at Mississippi State.
yeah, yeah. I
He
know.
had that, you know what? He had that Madden quality about him.
Yeah,
Even kind of looked like him a little bit, but he had that same sort of sense of humor and style and all of that.
yeah. Same. Really, like I don't want to call it like simplistic logic because that sounds like a knock, but it's really not. Like in a world that has a political landscape and a social landscape that's as complicated as it gets, having somebody who spouts like really simple logic and wisdom is just it's such a novelty anymore these days, and it's
Yeah.
almost comforting to watch
Yep.
his post game
Just a
conferences.
regular guy kind of guy.
Yeah, just having fun and all that too.
Yep.
So anyway, all the love to Mississippi State fans and all that, and his family,
Definitely.
of course. So that really sucks. Uh, in terms of his team, though, it sounds like his team really loved him too, which makes me feel like this game is kind of not going to come down to stats. Like, I don't think that you can really take the stats too seriously. Um, I think, obviously, I don't think Illinois is exactly going to be a pushover, but I think when it comes down to it, Mississippi State's probably going to have one of two things is going to happen. Either they're going to be hurt and sad, and that's going to affect the game, or they're going to be on fire. And I like to think that they're going to be on fire for their coach. So what Mississippi State does well is actually, despite their record, they actually do score pretty well. It's just a problem on defense is the fact that they allow 24 points per game. Illinois, on the other hand, only allows 12. So Illinois has, statistically speaking, anyway, the best defense in the Big Ten. I believe still the country, if I'm not mistaken. But that is just statistically, so we have to put a little asterisk on that. Uh, the what I would like to see though, so Mississippi State averages 78 yards a game rushing, so they are all through the air, and I believe Mike Leach was the pioneer of the air raid offense, if I'm not mistaken. So again, don't know a ton about SEC football or Mike Leach, but I pretty sure he is the pioneer of what is called the air raid offense. And I don't know much about the rushing aspect to that at all. So I believe, if I'm to understand this correctly, that the 314 yards passing per game, wow, is definitely by design. So I'm assuming that's coming off of, I don't know how many average plays are in a football game, 70, 80 per team, something like that. I
I think
gotta
so.
believe.
Yeah. Urban
Okay.
Meyer used to pride himself on saying they would get off like 110 snaps a game,
Sheesh.
but that was, going way over the top.
Yeah. So I gotta believe 80 to 85% of their snaps are passing plays, which means Illinois is definitely going to get tested through the air, and that's obviously where their defense it doesn't necessarily struggle, but that's the worst aspect of their defense. It would be for any defense, I think. I don't really know off the top of my head of a defense that defends the pass better than the run, and that just would seem bizarre to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I think Mississippi State would probably win this game. But that being said, it would be interesting to see, or it will be interesting to see how a team that is unabashedly pass heavy goes up against a team that is just statistically a very well-rounded defense. The over-under for the game is 46, so I imagine it's probably going to be a low-scoring game. However, to me, this kind of says that the first team to score 20, 24 points is probably going to be the winner.
I looked up the history of the air raid offense, and Grunge does have Mike Leach as essentially the pioneer, or at least perfected the air raid offense.
Okay.
So yeah, so I think you're on target there.
Sweet.
The okay, so the top secret team rivalry score predictor cannot take into account the emotional impact of a game. And as you were saying, this game is going to have a huge emotional impact. I'm sure the guys at Mississippi State are going to dedicate this game to Mike Leach. They're going to play this game for Mike Leach. It's going to be in honor of him. On the other side of that will be Illinois, who will still be playing to win. They're not going to lay down in honor of Mike Leach. They're going to try to win in honor of Mike Leach as well. All things being equal, these two teams are fairly closely matched, except for the situation with Mike Leach. Mike Leach's passing, so they don't have their coach. But going off of the stats, the top secret team rivalry score predictor has Illinois winning 24-12.
Ooh, okay. This is going to be where we disagree.
All right.
So I believe that Mississippi State's going to be on fire. I think that they've got a great passing offense. I'm pretty sure. Oh my goodness, their quarterbacks put up almost 4,000 yards passing. Whew. I can't even do that on the football or the video game. So that being said, I've got the Bulldogs winning 24-21. You can't see it on the screen. 24-21 Bulldogs.
24-21 Bulldogs. All right. Game number 4. Moving right along here. We haven't gotten the Zoom alert yet, so we're doing okay. We have the Citrus Bowl. Maybe. Whatever comes up. There we go. Louisiana State versus Purdue. A first game alert. This is the first time these two teams have played. Number 17, Louisiana State going up against unranked Purdue. Pretty close in the wins. 9-4 for Louisiana State, 8-5 for Purdue. Purdue, our spoiler makers, having taken down a couple of teams. Probably looking to do that again. Although Louisiana State is not ranked in the top 5, so the spoiler maker situation may not happen. Nevertheless, that is the situation with these two teams coming at each other for the first time, so not a lot to go on. Mac, give us your expert analysis and opinion.
All right, look,
extraordinary. You know what? I should have said extraordinary analysis and opinion because you are our commentator extraordinaire.
Oh, that gives me an idea for a team rivalry show. The Extraordinary Show.
The Extraordinary. All right. Give us your extraordinary analysis.
Excellent. Well, LSU's going to win.
And that's it for tonight. Oh, sorry.
So here's the thing. LSU has a really good offense, or actually a really decent offense. They've got an average defense. Purdue has a pretty decent offense and a really not so great. What did I just say? Purdue has a decent offense and a not so great defense. So here's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the fact this game is honestly really simple for me. I'm just kind of going based off of simple logic would tell me that SEC teams are better than the low tier Big Ten teams. But that being said, Purdue's not exactly a low tier Big Ten team. They did go to the Big Ten championship. They made it a game for a little while. I mean, I sweated through that first half a little bit. But LSU beat Alabama. LSU scored 30 points on Georgia. LSU took down number 7 Ole Miss by 4 scores. 25 points, 3.5 scores. And then the very next week took down number 6 Alabama. So they've got 2 top 10 wins, and those are back to back. Their losses are against a number 8 Tennessee team, a number 1 Georgia team, and then an inexplicable loss to Florida State to start the season, and an inexplicable loss to Texas A&M. Now, it's Brian Kelly's first season, so we can cut him some slack with Florida State. Texas A&M doesn't make much sense, but he does have 3 top 10 wins in his first season. That is epic. Purdue, on the other hand, doesn't have a head coach.
Oh, that's right. Jeff Brom skedaddled off to Kentucky.
Jeff Brom hightailed it back home to Kentucky, and Drew Brees is taking over play calling duties for this one game. Did you hear about that?
Drew Brees?
Drew Brees signed
Drew Brees?
The Drew Brees signed a one-game contract with Purdue. One game, which is awesome. And I got to tell you something. If they beat LSU by a lot, probably should have just hired him permanently.
Yeah. Oh, they'll be coming after him, I'm sure.
Well, no, they've already hired another guy.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. I don't remember his name, though. You should look that up real quick. But
Right.
Purdue lost to Syracuse. They lost to Wisconsin. They lost to Iowa. And they lost to Michigan. They had a close game against Northwestern, and they lost to Penn State. Penn State's a good team. That's fine. They can have that loss, whatever. But the fact is that they lost to Wisconsin and Iowa, both with a chance to clinch the division for both of those games, or during both of those games, basically. I'm pretty sure that's how that worked out. So when it comes down to it, the spread is 14.5 points. I think that's low. I think this, unfortunately for Purdue fans, is probably going to be a blowout in favor of LSU. But I'm going to give Purdue a little bit of a fighting chance here in this game. And my score prediction will reflect that. But unfortunately, I think LSU is just a stronger team. They're going to start a lot faster. Purdue might have, or no, I'm sorry. Both teams are going to start, or Purdue is probably going to start faster, but LSU is going to take over as the game goes on. And that, unfortunately, is going to lead to a very difficult second half for Purdue.
Ooh.
Yeah.
According to ESPN, Purdue names Illinois DC defense coordinator Ryan Walters as the new head coach. So we're just skipping around the Big Ten.
Yep.
Stealing coaches, stealing players.
Mm-hmm.
He is the oversaw the nation's #1 unit for much of the season as DC of Illinois. But then, obviously, much of the season is the key here. He has a 5-year contract pending board approval. So Ryan Walters.
So they completely switched philosophies at Purdue. Then they went from a very offensively minded guy with Jeff Brom to a very defensively minded guy, which says to me that they're probably going to try and that's a hire that they think will pay dividends in the future, kind of a thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, you would hope that for sure.
Well, yeah, I guess I think that they're thinking that the Big Ten as a whole is going to go a different direction. It's not going to be as offensively minded anymore.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually just kind of surprised Brian Kelly did as well as he did at LSU, although I actually thought they finished better than 9-4. So I guess 9-4 is pretty average. Yeah. Especially for LSU. The team rivalry top secret score predictor has LSU winning 33-14 over the Boilermakers.
See, that's the scenario I said was probably going to play out, but I'm giving Purdue a little bit of love. Not a lot. Not a lot.
Not a lot. just a skosh.
Just an extra one extra touchdown. I've got LSU 38-24.
Oh, all right.
Yep. We got 6.5 minutes.
I think we're gonna make it.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe if I can figure out where my mouse is. There we go. Okay. Moving on to the no longer relevant Rose Bowl. It's just awful. I mean, the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of the bowls, the bowl that Michigan and Stanford made famous, is now just another bowl game. Fortunately, it's still the Rose Bowl. Nobody bought the name and changed it. We have number 11 Penn State going up against number 8 Purdue. I got Purdue. I'm sorry, number 8 Utah. I don't know how I got Purdue out of that.
What just happened?
I don't know. Number 11 Penn State versus number 8 Utah. The Utah Utes. Utah is 10-3. Penn State finished 10-2. Utah lost their conference championship game.
No.
Playing at the Rose Bowl in front of 88,000 people, although it sometimes often gets up to 100,000, I believe. Penn State had a slightly less conference record at 7-2. Utah 8-2. This again is a first game alert. Mac, in 5 minutes or less, what is your extraordinary analysis of the Rose Bowl?
Well, first off, Utah won the conference championship against USC.
But they're 10-3.
And?
All right, fine. I took a shot. I didn't look it up. I should have looked it up.
not, not every conference champion goes
Oh, yeah.
undefeated.
There you go. It's right there on the site. Southern right California, 24-47. Wow, they slaughtered them too.
Yep.
Man, I take back everything I said. I'm sorry I called them Purdue. We're not professionals, folks.
Hire a QA person. Oh my gosh, the producer character I have in my head is over to the side just face palming and crying.
I quit. I quit.
I don't even exist and I quit. All right. This game is a little weird to me. This game is weird to me for two reasons. One, Penn State is a good team, but they should have beaten Ohio State.
Hot take.
Well, they should have. They didn't. And the reason is this, is because they are a little back and forth. They're a little roller coastery. So on paper, they look really good. But when you look at actual games, I mean, that fourth quarter against Ohio State was brutal. So you got Ohio State 10 points in the first quarter, Ohio State 3 points in the second and third quarter, Ohio State 28 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
What happened, guys? Okay, but then you look over at Utah, and I'm looking at their entire schedule here. So they start off the season with a loss at Florida. Florida is unranked to end the season. So what happened, guys? Florida is 6-7 right now. I'm just going to toss that out there. They beat the doors off of Southern Utah. They get all the way to UCLA and lose by 10 points. And then they make it all the way to Oregon. And Oregon was number 12 at the time. They lose a close game there. But it's a close game. So that's a good loss. But that really should be their only loss. Okay. But then they beat the doors off of USC. So neither team makes sense. And that's why I don't know how to call this game, which is why I'm going with a little bit of bias here, because I think as far as entire seasons go, Penn State was more consistent. But from a game by game basis, I don't know. The first team to make to commit 2 turnovers or have a second half collapse loses this game. And that's all I can really think to say about this game. Utah has a fast offense. They score a lot of points. Penn State's got a better defense, I think. It'll just come down to who passes the ball more and who doesn't turn it over.
The team rivalry, top secret score predictor.
You got Utah winning.
Utah 21, Penn State 16.
You were listening to that whole thing like this, idiot. I got Penn State 34-31, and I'm not saying anything else about it.
As well, we shouldn't. Given the amount of show prep we did for this show, we probably shouldn't say anything else.
Purdue fans are listening to this like, wait, we're in the Rose Bowl?
We're in the Rose Bowl.
Penn State?
Somebody get Brown back! It's too late. He's at the Creation Museum. That's going to do it for us, folks. I hope you have a wonderful New Year's and a wonderful New Year's Eve. I hope you enjoy all of the bowl games you want to watch. We're certainly going to enjoy it. We're going to watch every game we can. Hopefully, we'll be back for a national championship preview, provided one of the 2 Big Ten teams in the playoffs gets there. If they don't, have a great 2023. No, I'm sorry. We'll be back. We'll do stuff. It just won't be a preview show until, I guess, August. Mac, take us out.
Always bet the under. This is Team Rivalry.